I think the role of prayer in healing is it's just foremost and paramount. I don't think I think that God wants us to be involved with the sick and people who need healing in an active way in prayer, and I think that that's somewhat of that is what gets forgotten in this day and age, that we are to actively pray for our friends or our patients if we're a doctor, or anyone who is in need of prayer for healing. It's one of the foremost things in the Bible, so I think in that sense that's what our mission is to do as Christians. And I think it applies not only to healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, physicians' assistants, but also to just everyday people. God is, I think, closer to people in the throngs of extreme illness than he is in many places. I think anyone who's actually been in touch with somebody or involved with somebody who's in a situation where they are really battling a dire situation, I think you can really see God in the details of that situation. And God's role it's hard to understand for us, I think, because it's so hard to explain terrible illness to people and to explain how God could play any role in something so horrible. I think it's one of these mysteries that we all won't understand, but we do know as Christians that the Lord heals people from extreme situations and he saves them, but also sometimes it is not his will that happens, and people pass away from bad situations, or bad diseases. Children pass away from bad diseases. So, but somewhere in there, God is still present in all of that. So I think his role is hard to define, but he's definitely present. And the way we see his role is in a global, fatherly sense of being his child, and also submitting to him in his will for our lives, and submitting to him as being in control of everything. I've seen God work in my patients in cases. I'm a plastic surgeon, so I often work with wounds which are terrible and can be limb-threatening, and I've seen God work to heal those patients where they could have easily not healed a wound on their own. I think I've also seen God work in situations being peripherally involved with patients who were very ill and were intensive care units, or really in the throngs of disease, and they pulled through the power of prayer. And also I see him work on an everyday basis in cases that I do as a surgeon. He works in my life as I work doing the case, and he also works on my patients no matter what they're doing in terms of the post-operative healing. So it's from the little to the big. I think he's there, and I think we have to ask him to be there, and we have to give him the acknowledgement that it's actually his work and not our own work that's going on. I think that it's something that the Lord has really made clear to me that's my commission to do. I think when you hear that voice from God that tells you to do something, sometimes it happens when you're just thinking about something, or when you're praying or quiet, but often it happens for me when somebody asks me to do something. And it began with a very powerful miracle which had occurred in an operating room that I was in with a local minister, and it really spirited a revival in his church, and sort of a sensation throughout Richmond that has really led a lot of people to the Lord. And from that point, I just can't help but feel some responsibility that when, because of that situation, which was all to God's glory and all due to Him, I get asked to speak about healing or medicine related to God, that's all stems from that. So I feel like certainly that's what He has called me to do. And I feel a real powerful drive to do that. I mean, when God tells you to do something and He comes into an operating room and speaks to you and tells you that you have gifts but they're His to use, you tend to listen, I think. So sometimes, like everybody, we go on different pathways, or we as every Christian, I don't want to make it seem like I'm a perfect person by any stretch, and you have to focus on what God's mission for you is, but it always becomes very clear to me when somebody asks me to do something like this, like come to a retreat that's focused on healing. I know that it's linked to that event and that it's linked to the Lord, and it's a calling.